We've all been there, stuck in a toxic relationship or stuck on someone who seems to be slowly draining our self-worth. Yet we can't help but find ourselves consistently drawn to them like moths to a flame, despite the devastating consequences it brings. The reason for this self-destructive pattern lies in something far more complex than a simple case of bad taste or poor judgment. It's a silent language of attraction that speaks directly to our darkest vulnerabilities. We've all seen it play out in our friends, our family members, or even that one ex who we could never seem to shake off. And yet, somehow, we managed to convince ourselves that we deserved them. In this video, we're going to dig deep into the hidden power struggle that's driving our attraction to the people who hurt us, and uncover the subtle yet insidious forces that whisper in the darkness of our minds, urging us to surrender to our deepest fears. When we're drawn to people who consistently hurt us, it's often because we're desperate for a sense of validation, a fleeting feeling that we're worthy of love and attention. Deep down, we know we're choosing partners who mirror our worst insecurities, but we continue this dance because it's the only familiar pattern in our lives. The truth is, we're often more invested in the drama of a toxic relationship than we are in our own healing and growth. The reason we stay in these relationships is because we're constantly seeking to prove ourselves, to convince the other person that we're worth their love and affection, all the while neglecting to address the deep-seated issues that are driving our attraction in the first place. We're drawn to people who hurt us because they offer us a sense of control, a sense of power, a way to compensate for feelings of powerlessness and insignificance that we've been carrying around for far too long. And so, we convince ourselves that the hurt and pain are somehow worth it, that the fleeting moments of connection and validation are enough to make up for the endless cycles of emotional abuse and neglect that we suffer in silence, all while perpetuating the same patterns of self-deception that led us here in the first place. When we're drawn to people who hurt us, it's often because we're seeking a sense of validation, of being seen and understood, not because they are capable of providing it, but because we're willing to settle for scraps in an attempt to avoid true vulnerability. In unhealthy partnerships, the power struggle is always masquerading as a relationship. It's a transactional dynamic where one person gains control and the other gains a fleeting sense of importance. At its core, our attraction to toxic individuals stems from a deep-seated insecurity that we're not enough without their approval, their validation, or their very presence in our lives. These relationships are a reflection of our own fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, and fear of losing the sense of self that we've created around them. We're drawn to people who hurt us because they push our button. They activate our deepest insecurities, and they give us a reason to believe that we need fixing, that we're broken and in need of rescue. The ego's greatest trick is to convince us that we're worthy of love and respect only when we're in a relationship, even if that relationship is toxic and damaging. Our attraction to those who hurt us is often mislabeled as passion or chemistry, but it's more likely fueled by a deep-seated desire for validation, stemming from our own unresolved emotional wounds. When we repeatedly pursue relationships that leave us feeling drained and compromised, it's essential to acknowledge that our subconscious is seeking a reflection of ourselves in our partner, rather than genuine self-love and acceptance. The people we're drawn to are often an exact representation of the parts of ourselves we've neglected, suppressed, or are in denial about, highlighting the complex interplay between our ego, self-image, and emotional well-being. By fixating on individuals who frequently disregard or disrespect us, we may be unconsciously attempting to prove our own self-worth and control in the face of uncertainty, a coping mechanism rooted in the fundamental human need for control and power. We tend to overlook the fact that our partners can't offer us what we don't possess, but our own insecurities lead us to believe otherwise, allowing the fantasy of external validation to override our intuition and common sense. The truth is, Our attraction to those who hurt us is not about the other person, but about our own unresolved emotional needs and desires for validation, love, and acceptance. A stark reminder that our true power lies within our capacity to choose compassion and self-love over the destructive pursuit of externally sourced validation. When we're drawn to people who hurt us, it's often not about the qualities they possess, but rather the validation we seek from being with them. Notice how we tend to romanticize the toxic relationships we've had, and it's because we've become so invested in the narrative we've created around them. In reality, we're not attracted to their flaws, we're simply trying to fix them in ourselves. There's a subtle yet insidious dynamic at play when we chase after people who hurt us. We're not just seeking their love, we're also seeking validation for our own self-worth. What seems like love or attraction is often a desperate attempt to compensate for our own feelings of inadequacy. We're drawn to people who hurt us because it confirms to our ego that we're worthy of being loved, even if it means tolerating the abuse. The way we choose to sabotage ourselves with people who consistently break us down might be a cry for attention. A desperate plea for validation in a world where we've been conditioned to believe our worth is only measured by how others perceive us. Our need for instant gratification, combined with our deeply ingrained insecurities, can make us susceptible to the short-lived highs of toxic relationships, which in turn can create an intense feeling of excitement, only to plunge us into the depths of despair once the relationship inevitably falls apart. If we take a closer look, we'll often find that the reason we're drawn to people who hurt us is not because of who they are, but because of who we are. A complex web of conflicting emotions, unresolved traumas, and unhealed wounds that we've learned to mask with a carefully crafted facade. It's essential to realize that our tendency to attract individuals who abuse our trust, time, and emotional well-being is not a failure on our part, but rather a stark reminder of our unresolved issues and the unconscious coping mechanisms we've developed to deal with the pain of the past. The constant cycle of attraction to abusers can be seen as a thinly veiled attempt at self-protection, a misguided effort to recreate a sense of control or familiarity in the face of uncertainty, only to find ourselves trapped in a never-ending dance of codependency and emotional manipulation. The moment we acknowledge this underlying dynamic, we can start to unravel the threads of self-deception that have kept us enthralled to these toxic relationships, and instead begin to weave a new narrative of self-love, self-awareness, and healing that will ultimately set us free from the destructive patterns that have held us captive for far too long. Thank you for joining me on this journey to uncover the silent language of attraction. As we've explored the intricate dynamics at play, I encourage you to reflect on the patterns of your own life and ask yourself, what unconscious messages are you sending to those who enter it? Let's continue this conversation. Hit that like button, share your observations in the comments below, and subscribe for more insights into the human experience.